Hey guys, and welcome to the Wrestling Hideout Weekly Podcast. As a famous redneck would say, we are your illustrious hosts. I am Rhys. I'm of course joined by Liam.
Go on, everyone.
Yep, that's how we're going to start this. Cool. Right. Big week in wrestling, but firstly, what have you been watching?
I have been concentrating mainly on AEW because I'm a huge Collision fan. I really think that they've upped the game with Collision. It's a lot less gimmicky than Dynamite, and you can tell that certain aspects of the company are not involved in Collision. And yourself, my friend, what have you been concentrating on?
I've been watching a lot of Impact this week. In my opinion, the best weekly show. They have just every match is different, and it's amazing.
It's just a shame that Impact lost their wrestling base, because at one point they had a good 1 million people watching them every week on Spike TV.
Yep.
But in terms of quality, I'll agree with you. I think Impact is at as a good level as it's ever been right now. And I think it's comfortable in its position as number 4 on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I can easily sit through 2 hours of Impact, an hour and a half without adverts. Easiest 90 minutes of wrestling I watch a week.
Sammy Callahan's still on Impact.
Yeah, he's with OVE.
I love Sammy
Feuding
Callahan.
with he's feuding with Cody Deaner's stable, Violent by Design, having a lot of hardcore matches, which is a lot of fun to sit through.
Good. And your views on World Wrestling Entertainment this week?
It was a show. It was a show.
Oh, come on, Rhys. It's not as bad as Circa the Authority.
Well, let's give it some time. Before we get into those reviews, should we start with a bit of news? So, Cultaholic are reporting via Better Wrestling Experience that there is a big upset planned at Money in the Bank. And we've done our predictions, but which match, if there was going to be a big upset, do you think it would be?
I think it will probably be the Money in the Bank male match.
I am thinking the female match. I think the big upset would be Zelina, based on who else is in there.
Well, it depends, because I've just read online that SmackDown are planning on, before the pay-per-view, having an Oscar-Charlotte match. And I can see if Charlotte doesn't win that, she somehow bullies herself into the Money in the Bank and then possibly wins.
Well, go and check out our predictions video. That is live at the same time as this, because we talk about the possibility of another person being added to the mix. So, make sure you check out our predictions video. I will link it in the description. We also have NXT might be on Survivor Series. Again, that comes from Cultaholic. How do you feel about NXT jumping and being the third brand on Survivor Series?
I think when they bring NXT up to the main rosters on the big pay-per-view, it usually goes right, because they usually bring a main, I hate calling it this, main roster NXT alumni tends to get involved, and it tends to be pretty good, i.e. Kevin Owens in NXT, was it either last year or the year before in War Games? That was amazing.
Yeah, I think it was the year before. I mean, this would be akin to when they brought NXT up to Survivor Series, and you had Team NXT taking on like Raw and SmackDown. You had the Roderick Strong versus, was it Nakamura and whoever was the other champion
I
at the time?
find it funny when they well, not funny, ironic, when they bring NXT up to the main roster. Even today, the NXT stars look better to some extent.
Yeah. This is a very different NXT now, though, NXT 2.0 compared to then, because that was proper, like, black and gold. You know, you had Adam Cole, you had Keith Lee, Ciampa. This is a very different NXT. Do you think it will still work?
I think that Shawn Michaels being the head honcho per se in NXT could have potentially brought it back a step, back to the old black and gold. But this isn't takeover NXT. This isn't Triple H opening every show NXT with a monologue. It isn't quite there, but I believe the 2.0 is starting to be brushed off now.
Yeah, I mean, I've not watched a single episode of 2.0.
I did. I have to be honest. I watched the opening 2 weeks and I genuinely felt like throwing up.
I mean, there's a couple of like good moments from 2.0 that always they stick in my mind. Like Carmelo Hayes, I think he's great. The whole Mandy Sachs Toxic Attraction, or Mandy Rose, I guess her wrestling name is, and Toxic Attraction was great.
Carmelo's been brought up to the main roster now, hasn't he, to interfere in certain events?
Yeah, it's just overall, I have no interest in watching NXT anymore. I don't know if that's because there's more wrestling available now, or if NXT's dropped in quality. But
I think I think NXT, through better or worse, maybe the media did this, but when they launched Dynamite and they pitted NXT versus Dynamite, is when certain management in WWE started to get interested in NXT. They may not have been previously, and I don't think the Thursday Night War did NXT any good.
nope, I can totally agree. Totally agree. I think they lost a bunch of their established stars in NXT as well, which obviously is developmental, so they're meant to. But when those people were brought up,
If you look at NXT's history, Rhys, every time they called up a main roster star, apart from the Shield, let's say, but after the Shield and Big E to an extent, every time they pulled up a main roster star, they flopped. They flopped. I mean, what happened to Bobby Roode? What happened to Bobby Roode?
no, I agree. I think the only other person that stands out other than the Shield would be Kevin Owens.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't forget Kevin Owens, and to an extent Sammy, but Kevin Owens.
Sammy now, but it's taken years.
Yeah. But there was a time where they were calling them up too early and they were ruining them. I mean, Keith Lee. Keith Lee was ruined.
Yeah, no, I agree. I still picture the scene of him holding both titles, him throwing Adam Cole into the audience. And then he comes up, they put him in a singlet, call him Bearcat Lee, and dead in the water.
I don't know.
Like, you had the stare down with Brock in the Rumble, the crowd going wild. And they just butcher it.
I don't know what it is about WWF, whether it's a senile old man or whether it's internal politics, but it just seems to me that Vince can't keep his mind set on things. One week you'll have, as you say, Keith Lee staring down Brock Lesnar as the NXT champion in the Royal Rumble, and then, as you say, 2 weeks later he'll be Keith Bearcat Lee in a leotard. It's just sad. Anyway, we digress. Back to the week's wrestling. If you want to start with your Impact moment of the week, we'll go from there.
Well, there is actually one thing I just want to promote quick, and this is going to be talking about one of our favourite wrestlers. LA Knight states he thinks he was basically fired without it happening last year before he became Max Dupree.
I did read about this.
How do you fire this guy?
Well, I looked into this, and it was basically a case of they weren't firing him, but they were telling him they had nothing for him, and that he basically just had to go home. And I think LA Knight has always been good. I just don't think he's been given any creative freedom. And
now he's one of the most over people in the company.
With no effort to make him over. They haven't pushed him. He's just become over. I mean, the crowd, when he came out and he destroyed Logan Paul, in terms of verbally, Logan Paul looked dumbfounded. The crowd were, like cheering and shouting, and Logan Paul was surprised and he didn't know what to say in response to him. That comment here, that comment about I've got a map for you and this is where you can shove every bottle of Prime. I don't know whether that's scripted or whether that come from himself, but it was amazing.
Yeah, and LA Knight isn't just someone who's big in the arenas. The Saudi Arabia audience hijacked the presser, chanting for LA Knight over Triple H.
See, the problem with that though is that upsets people. Well, maybe not Triple H, but that upsets Vince McMahon, and this has happened before, hasn't it? And then they've been buried so deep you've never heard from them again.
Yeah, I think if they strap a rocket to LA Knight, I think he's going to be a big deal for them. I kind of think unless they release him, they can try and push him down as much as he wants. I think he's going to just keep getting those.
They've got to be careful. They've got to make it natural, though. They can't push him too hard. Do you think he can talk as well as The Rock?
No. I don't think that's a bad thing, because The Rock is probably, arguably one of the greatest promos ever.
He did come from an era where Vince handed them a piece of paper and said, "This is an idea of what I want to say, off you go."
Yeah. So, no, I don't think he's as good as Rock, but that's not to say he's not a phenomenal promo, it's just The Rock is on a whole other level, in my opinion.
Do you think it hurts him being compared to The Rock, though?
Yes and no. I think with older audiences, probably. As we spoke about in our predictions video, go and check that out again, small plug. A lot of younger people, to The Rock, and you said this point, is just a movie star now. He's not someone they remember in the ring.
True.
So I think it hurts with the older audience, maybe with people our sort of age, but I think for the 13, 14-year-olds, he's a dude with a cool catchphrase.
Well, is that what LA Knight is, though?
Arguably. But then the same argument could be said for if Austin didn't have his whole Vince feud and blow up, would he just be the what promo? Would he just be that chant, per se? I don't know, LA Knight's an interesting topic. We could probably do a whole podcast talking about LA Knight, because...
Slightly tempted now to spend the entire rest of this podcast just chanting "what" at you.
Don't. We'll get that soundbite going at some point. Alright, should we move on to the week in wrestling?
Go first. This is your dream.
My dream. Right. As a preface, we are recording on Wednesday the 28th, so there is no SmackDown. And just to give you a heads up of what shows we're talking about. So, shall we start with Raw?
Go for it.
What did we think of Raw?
Raw's Raw. That's all we can really say these days. It's apparently the premier wrestling show in the world, but I don't think it has been for a couple of years. What did you... We had Dominic Mysterio addressing Cody Rhodes. Now...
Yeah.
You have to give Dom credit to an extent, for never laughing when the crowd boos at him.
No, and I think the promo was exactly what it needed to be. Cody burying this quote-unquote kid, and this kid refusing to fight him. I think it was exactly what it needed to be.
Have you noticed something? The pops for Rhodes are getting louder and louder every week.
He's a megastar. They just need to put a title on him, and he'd be huge.
I think not giving him the title at WrestleMania was the right thing to do in the long run.
In the long run, maybe, but goddamn, I'm so bored of Roman's title reign.
Yeah, but I think this whole thing matching Cody with Dominic is actually quite intelligent writing, so that was obviously done by Paul. So you're pitting him against somebody the crowd loves to hate, so it's gonna make him bigger and bigger. Because
yep,
there's only so many times you can wrestle Lesnar before. Lesnar's title reign was just as boring as... Was that 500 odd days he was champion?
I probably fell asleep after the first two, to be honest.
That's the opening. Next you get Nakamura versus Ricochet with Bronson Reed at ringside, and I don't get Bronson Reed. I don't know what they're trying to do with him.
No, I don't get it either. I look at him and I'm just like, we have Gunther.
Shinsuke should, realistically, with his wrestling pedigree and how good he is in the ring, be walking through people like this. They just make him look weak.
The problem is Ricochet is a great wrestler, and if you look at his previous wrestling stuff before WWE, amazing wrestler. Same with Nakamura. But these two have been so mid-cardish that even if they go out there and have a killer match, it's so hard to care about it.
I think Nakamura in NXT was possibly his best work, to an extent. And I have watched some of his Japanese work.
Yeah.
Because in Japan, when he was younger, he didn't quite have that look. And the look now, with the hair and the face and the mouth shield, it's all part together. He didn't have that back then. Bronson Reed, calling him the Aussie Destroyer as well, that's a terrible nickname.
Yep.
If if Nakamura can knock Samoa Joe out with a Kinshasa, how is Bronson Reed shrugging it off?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. This was a match that you hoped for the Money in the Bank ladder match, and it was a good match, but that was about it. Next, you had Balor cut an amazing promo on Seth Rollins. They have fixed Finn Balor, in my opinion, the last 2 weeks, and I actually give a crap about Finn Balor and the title chase.
Yes, I do. I think Finn Balor was very, very badly broken by Vince McMahon circa 2016-17. He had that very long injury, if you excuse, English is not my first language, idiot is. He had that very long injury, and they never really did anything with him when he came back. Yes, he got given a couple of secondary titles. I think the start to fixing him was when they put him back into NXT. But again, they dropped the ball when he came back up. But
and it's taken a while, but the Judgment Day have been a good breath of fresh air into him.
And I also think putting him back with Seth in this title feud was the right thing to do because it's Seth.
Yep, I totally agree. Like, there's the history of it. Like 3 years ago, no,
7 years ago. That's how long these guys have been in the. Seth Rollins has been the top of the game for a long time.
Since I think it's coming up to 10 years. Didn't they debut in 2013?
Shield debuted in 2013, interfering in a CM Punk match against Ryback. God, Ryback is someone we will never mention on this show.
Nope.
Because, okay, I will say one thing. Ryback is such an idiot that he posted on his Twitter, "What would you like me to do? Go to Impact, go to WWE, or retire?" 56%.
I saw
56%
this. Yes.
said retire. He did it 6 months later again. It got up to 70%.
Yep.
The man's
a hero.
The only guy. Well, one of maybe two people Paul Heyman couldn't fix. He was a Paul Heyman guy, believe it or not.
Yep, him, Curtis Axel.
That's the other one he couldn't fix.
Curtis Axel has so much potential. Such.
What did you think about Balor versus Carmelo?
It was a great match. Carmelo Hayes, I can see why he is quote unquote Shawn Michaels like project. I think the dude could be the next Shawn Michaels.
I think Shawn Michaels has done so much for NXT. It's unreal.
Yeah, like Carmelo Hayes can go. Like, I reckon he is just a call-up waiting to happen. I think he will take WWE by storm. I think he will be a modern-day Shawn Michaels. I think he will take over the mid-card scene. I think he'll work his way up to top. I think he'll become a huge main event.
Something I didn't mention in our predictions video, the plug, is Carmelo Hayes is probably the oddball in the Seth Balor match at the pay-per-view, because 2 weeks in a row now he's helped Seth Rollins fight off Finn Balor.
Yeah, that's a good point, to be fair. I could see him popping up.
Helping Finn. NXT. Well, I mean, people forget Seth Rollins is the inaugural NXT champion. Actually, he's been around that long. People do forget that.
He has been there for a while.
So, what's next?
How do we feel about Tommaso Ciampa getting blindsided by The Miz?
Well, this wasn't even supposed to be on the card, was it?
I believe originally last week it was meant to be Ciampa versus. It was meant to be Ciampa versus Rollins for the title. So this is a result of that changing last week.
What's Vince McMahon doing rewriting Raw at the last second? Why is he getting involved?
I mean,
why are we having Ciampa versus The Miz? The Miz is a good worker. You could put anyone with The Miz and The Miz makes them look great, yeah. But Ciampa doesn't need this.
No, Ciampa should.
Ciampa's desperate for a push.
Yeah, Ciampa needs more than this. And put him in a title match.
Ciampa is Triple H's legacy.
Yeah, him and Gargano, and both have been used like shit.
You know, Tommaso Ciampa at one point was the big thing in NXT. He got hurt, didn't he? Just as he had exploded.
Yes. Yep.
Another one where injuries ruin a big push. That's probably why That's probably why they put him with The Miz, actually, because The Miz, as that infamous Talking Smack promo, he never gets hurt and he's very safe.
Mm-hmm. Miz is a staple of WWE. Like, I'll stand by that statement.
What he who we can't name for legal reasons did to The Miz probably actually pushed The Miz to become who he is now.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Right, next up we had Dominic Mysterio versus Akira Tozawa. This was a match.
Dominic Mysterio. I've never seen, genuinely, I've never seen somebody become so big without actually doing much wrestling.
Yeah, he's a heat magnet. You hear about X-Pac
Oh,
heat?
God, it's
Like,
perfect.
I think at some point we're gonna end up.
X-Pac. Wow.
Yeah, I think at some point we're gonna end up with Dominic Mysterio heat. Because like the dude gets booed. We also
Dominic Mysterio, I mean, can you ever see him becoming a face?
I think a lot of people say that all good faces start out as amazing heels, and I think if he's going to become like the next Rey Mysterio, but in his own way, he probably needs this heel run. Otherwise, he was
True.
just a bland good guy. He just teamed up with his dad. That's what he was.
I think when he kicked Edge in the nuts,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Yes, the one good thing about Clash at the Castle.
The Dominic Mysterio, God, people will forget that he was I'm Your Puppy. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Dominic Mysterio has got the wrestling pedigree. He is Rey Mysterio's son, allegedly, Eddie Guerrero's son. So, I mean, the match itself was pretty good to an extent, but I think they just bring Dominic down now to rile up the crowd because he gets them going.
Yeah, like he's good at what he does. That's all that you can really say about this match. It was on the card. It got Dom a match. Right, we had Raquel Rodriguez versus Ronda Rousey. Again, just another match.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
this is just to build up for the title match.
the less we talk about Ronda Rousey, the better.
Yeah, we've been over this in our predictions. This is just builds up for the title match that, apart from Liv's return, this whole thing does nothing for me.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just filling time. I think Raw would be better off going back to 2 hours because they would get rid of filler like this.
Yep, 100%. And we had the ladies for the female Money in the Bank. They had a big promo, bit of a brawl. Happens every year.
Fell asleep during this.
It wasn't very good. It happens every year. You know it's going to happen.
The problem is that they have the talent in the female division to make it more interesting than it is. I just get this opinion that the female talent are more heavily scripted than the male talent.
This is probably the best female roster in WWE ever, talent-wise.
What are you talking about? The Divas division was brilliant, man.
You know what?
That butterfly belt was beautiful.
I do miss my Maurice versus Eve Torres matches. You're right.
Oh, Alicia Fox coming to the ring drunk.
Yeah, where's my Alicia Fox versus Kelly matches?
Oh, do you know what? Actually, without being sexist, Eva Mendes, amazing.
Well, on to
Do you remember when Santino tried to do the splits to copy her?
Yes.
Callback.
Right, next up we had Sami Zayn versus Gunther, and this also had a brawl between Matt Riddle and Gunther. I mean, again, there's not much to say.
I like what they're doing with Gunther.
Yeah.
They're not shoving him straight into a main event for the world title. They're not doing Vladimir Kozlov, if you follow me.
Dominating.
What do you think about the name Gunther compared to Walter?
I love Walter. I think Gunther sounds awful. But I think if he ever leaves, I would like to see him elsewhere using the Walter name instead of, I don't know, Maximus or something that he has to come up with because he can't legally use Walter.
I can imagine if this was 1990s WWE, he would have been called Maximus.
Yeah.
They're trying to shove Matt Riddle into everything involving Imperium and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens now, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and I'm not a Riddle fan. I mean, he has great matches, but as a character, couldn't really care. But, at the pay-per-view, him and Gunther are going to beat the piss out of each other. And it's probably going to be a very believable brawl.
I also rate Ludwig Kaiser very highly.
I like them both. I think all three people in Imperium are amazing. We talk about Gunther more because he has more of a spotlight, but the other two are very good wrestlers. European-based wrestlers. I believe they're both in WXW as champs. All three could go in the ring, and I think if you had a trios match with them and three others, it would blow the roof off the place.
Talking about this match, I think they've dropped the ball with Sami Zayn slightly. I don't think he's getting the mega pops he used to. He's still popular. Don't get me wrong. He's nowhere like he was 2 years ago. But I think they dropped the ball on him slightly.
Yeah, I mean, the Mania thing was the big blow-off. And since then, obviously you had the Saudi Arabia match with the Bloodline.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, it's all about Owens in my opinion. All about Owens. Like,
Yeah, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is an interesting wrestler because I know for a fact that Vince has tried to push Kevin Owens down multiple times, but he seems to just work his way back up every time. I think it's a bit of a travesty that he hasn't been given another world title.
No.
And because his run as Universal Champ with Jericho, they were co-champs, if you remember, was really good. And then they had him lose to Goldberg in like 10 seconds. It was just such a slap.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think as long as Zayn is paired up with Owens, I think he's always going to be held down. Because Owens is that good, not because Zayn's that bad.
Well, if you remember the old NXT days, when Sami Zayn finally won the title and then Kevin got him and it was so good.
Yeah. Great scenes.
I think it was funny that Kevin Owens not giving a damn that Riddle attacked was hilarious.
Yeah, right?
It's just brilliant. The way he delivers his lines is brilliant.
Yeah, Owens
Kevin Owens doesn't come across scripted. Some of the wrestlers stand there and it sounds like they're reading off a script. KO doesn't.
No, he's probably... I reckon he's top 5 in the whole company. Put him in anything and it works. Like, the dude is just... He understands wrestling.
He can work with anyone and make it believable.
Yep.
I believe that Kevin Owens can give Roman Reigns a run for his money. I believe that Kevin Owens can give Gunther a run. Some of the other wrestlers, it's like, really?
No, I couldn't agree more with you.
Did KO ever face Brock?
I feel like he must have, but I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know if he ever faced him at a pay-per-view.
Brock Lesnar, Kevin Owens. Oh, apparently, according to Road Dogg, Brock Lesnar refused to work with Kevin Owens. That's reported by Cultaholic.
That's an interesting one. I might have to look into that. That's almost like Austin refusing to do the job to Brock.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day when he had a ball and went home with it.
Well, the final part of Raw is Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest. Now, we spoke quite extensively.
How far Damian Priest has come?
Yeah, I was say we spoke in our predictions quite extensively about how good Damian Priest now is. This was just a solid main event match for a TV show. Like, Cody versus Priest. That is a good match. That's a match I want to watch now.
Question, Rhys. What do you think Cody did behind the scenes to make them hate him so much to turn him into Stardust? Because he always had this in him. Always.
Who knows, dude? Who knows?
Because he was really heavily trampled in his first WWE run. You had that stupid mustache, the face shield. Although his work was with Damien Sandow was pretty good, but he's another dropped ball, Damien Sandow. But look at him now. I mean, do you think in some ways him going to the indie scene and AEW was him trying to show Vince and Triple H that he could do this?
Possibly, because as soon as he left WWE, he hit the ground running. His ROH stuff was amazing. His Impact stuff was amazing. His New Japan stuff was amazing. His Watch Culture Pro Wrestling stuff with the Internet Championship was amazing. Like,
did he go to Lucha Underground, or had that been closed?
No, he'd been closed by then. That closed around the time of Hager, because Hager was the last Lucha Underground champion.
That was Drew McIntyre that went there, wasn't it?
No. Jake Hager, John Morrison.
Johnny TV.
That is something we're going to talk about.
I mean, I like what they've done. I don't see WWE 5 years ago would have given someone like Priest a chance.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. He would have been mid-card at best, and maybe not even top of the mid-card, just in the mid-card.
Future champion, do you think?
Has to be. Like, even if it's just a transition champ.
A Miz-style champ.
Yeah, like, even if he's just there to put the belt on someone else.
Although Miz did win a WrestleMania main event, actually, so you can't call him a transitional champion.
No. Like, even if he's just in that role, he needs a title reign.
I think when they finally pull the trigger and give Cody the title, it's going to either be the most disappointing thing they've ever done or the greatest thing they've ever done.
So, I have a controversial opinion. I think Cody should beat Roman, and then Cody should get immediately squashed by Gunther.
I agree with you. It's not controversial. I agree that is the best thing to do.
I think Cody should hold it
Have
for
that
like
fairy tale story where he finally gets there. He reaches the top of the ladder in tears. Gunther comes out.
Yep. And just
Brilliant. That's brilliant writing.
dominates him. Like, it's not even close. There's no fight back. He just gets pummeled around the ring for 5-10 minutes. Foot on the chest, sorted.
Trying to think if there's any other history. Didn't they do that? They've done that before. They did it to a lesser extent with. Oh God! Now my brain's gone numb. Zack Ryder with the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania.
Yeah, wins the title in front of his family, and the next night, drops out. Yeah,
Daniel Bryan, they did it to him in an extent. I mean, that was an injury, but it was kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Gunther should just run through Cody immediately.
The problem with Gunther is, it depends. Vince is asserting his creative control. I can't see Gunther winning a title because Vince, rightly or wrongly, seems to have an issue with giving the title to Europeans.
There was a report a while ago about Vince wanting to job Gunther out to just everyone, which blows my mind.
Yeah, he did. They did. He actually almost completely got rid of him. He actually almost terminated his contract.
Which is crazy, because look, the dude is over. Like, every pay-per-view, I look forward to a Gunther match 9 times out of 10, the most.
I've got a suspicious feeling it was Gunther that caved Cody Kingston's chest in.
Could you imagine?
Mate, his chops are big show S powerful.
Yeah, they're fucking nasty sounding.
And his German suplexes look incredible.
Yeah.
Gunther versus Brock would be an interesting match if Brock actually let it happen.
Well, shall we cover what was arguably on Twitter one of the worst SmackDowns of all time?
We have to.
I mean, there's a few little key points.
Okay, go on then.
Liv Morgan returns. That's cool.
Morgan is so over right now. Not, because she just does so much work for the company. It's crazy.
And she's only like 28. She's like my age. So she's going to be going, hopefully, for a very, very long time. Asuka and Charlotte have a fight after Charlotte beats up Lacey Evans.
I always worry about Asuka and Charlotte Flair.
Like, this whole Asuka, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair thing is doing nothing for me. And the fact that it's not featured on the pay-per-view is pretty telling. Like,
true.
I just don't care about it. You had Ronda Rousey and Baszler unifying the tag team titles against the NXT Women's Champions. Again, I don't really care about it. I guess the biggest thing from the entire night is LA Knight beat Rey Mysterio in a show that was apparently heavy.
I'm saying LA Knight should be beating people like Rey Mysterio now.
LA Knight should be beating a lot of people. I guess for a show that was reportedly changed by Vince like very, very last minute, that kind of stands out because I would imagine Rey Mysterio would beat LA Knight in like 4 minutes.
Definitely. I mean, Rey Mysterio back in the day was beating the Great Khali and Mark Henry. It's like,
yep.
On that subject, to do with wrestling, obviously wrestling, I think I can read you some results from a WWE live show that they held in Sheffield yesterday.
Okay.
You may want to change the opener, by the way, because this is from the 29th.
Well,
we are recording it on the 28th.
Yeah, we're not technically recording. We are recording this a little bit late. So we're technically doing the 28th to the 21st to the 28th. But nothing's really happened the last 2 days. SmackDown's tonight, so we can't really talk about it.
There you go. The results are... Do you want me to talk about this or not?
No, go for it. Let's talk about it.
Becky Lynch defeated Zoe Stark.
Excellent.
He was really over in Sheffield.
Of course.
Bronson Reed defeated Shinsei Nakamura.
Okay.
Rhea Ripley retained over Natalia. Ripley and Dominic were the highlights all night.
Oh.
Matt Riddle and Alpha Academy defeated Imperium.
Really?
I mean, apparently Imperium stole the night with their in-ring work, though.
They shouldn't be losing those matches, though.
Cody Rhodes defeated Finn Balor in a Sheffield street fight.
Did you just say Cody Rhodes beat Finn Balor
Yeah.
for Finn Balor's World Heavyweight title match?
Yep.
Fucking hell. Okay.
Cody threw a table with a crossroads. I put Finn through a table with a crossroads.
That doesn't make it any better.
Makes sense.
Surely that match shouldn't be happening.
Raquel Rodriguez defeated Piper Niven.
Okay.
Niven apparently was really well appreciated by the crowd.
I mean, Piper is Scottish.
Dominic Mysterio defeated Ricochet.
Okay.
Apparently, Rhea Ripley helped by pulling him out of the way from a frog splash.
Awesome.
Seth Rollins detained over Damian Priest. They did an angle where Rhea Ripley tried to blind Rollins with powder while Dominic Mysterio held him. Rollins made her blind herself and broke free by kicking Dominic in the nuts. Rollins then shoved Dominic into a DTT from Ripley. The singing for Rollins was huge this night. Rollins gave a nice speech to end the show and spent a long time taking photos with fans.
I mean, that does sound like a house show fight.
So over at the moment, Seth Rollins with the fans.
Yeah.
My favourite podcaster and wrestling manager, Jim Cornette, says he's great in the ring, but at the moment he's just a song.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. His promo on Raw, he did just echo the whole, that's a bitter pill you're going to have to swallow, which Finn Balor said earlier in the night. So, yeah, he is pretty much just a song at the moment, but...
I'm not sure why they're letting Finn Balor lose the night before his pay-per-view.
Yeah, that really irks me. Even to Cody, like, put Finn in there against, I don't know, anyone.
Unless they're trying to make Cody look invincible.
They are.
Think about
now...
it. If Cody shouldn't be losing again, should he?
No, Cody shouldn't be losing for sure, but neither should Balor. Like, there are so many people on that roster they could have put in those matches.
It is a Sheffield street fight. It's just a street fight in Sheffield.
Yeah, exactly.
Sheffield street fight, and they the first massive brawl erupts in South Yorkshire during lockdown. That looks more interesting than SmackDown, that whole show, which is not on TV.
Yeah, and that's scary. Right, let's touch on some indies. MLW. We have Jacob Fatu. He's the new National Openweight Championship. Or champion, I should say.
Major League Wrestling, MLW.
Yes. Used to watch it religiously. I've dropped off now. Unfortunately, the biggest news of this week about Jacob Fatu isn't his title win. It's the fact that he has apparently taken money from a non-profit organisation for an appearance and no-showed and ghosted them.
Sorry.
That came out yesterday, so...
Oh dear. Is he a part of the Fatu family, is he?
He is. Jacob Fatu, he is part of the bloodline, technically. So that's a great look.
He is the National Openweight Champion, yeah?
He is the National Openweight Champion. You also have Alexander...
just taking a look. I don't know anything about it. Oh, God, he looks like Umaga.
Yep.
He even has similar tattoos.
Yep.
It's a good title belt, though. Listeners, I don't know anything about MLW, by the way, listeners. I had heard of it, but I didn't know much about it.
Early MLW is amazing.
Wow, they've even got another member of that family in the Samoan SWAT tag team.
Yep, Lance Anoa'i.
Is the
MLW
entire island of Samoa wrestlers?
Pretty much. But no,
Who's
MLW
this
was amazing.
Alexander Hammerstone?
Dude, he's so good. Alexander Hammerstone is amazing. He was in a stable with MJF, because MJF was in MLW before AEW opened. He's amazing. Yeah, he's so good.
Interested in this, Rhys. Thank you. MLW looks interesting.
Their early YouTube shows are so good. Check out Selena De La Renta. An amazing female manager. She's probably my second favorite manager before Paul Heyman. She's phenomenal. She doesn't do any more for them, unfortunately. She's left. But early MLW, when you've got her managing Ray Phoenix and Penta, so fucking good. And the shows are so varied. There's only 3 matches a show, so they're easy hour watches, but so
MLW.
Good.
MLW has featured Kevin Sullivan, Jim Duggan, MVP, Bruce Pitchard, Tony Schiavone, Jim Cornette, and Eric Bischoff have all been on MLW. Wow.
Yeah, Jim Cornette used to do colour commentary for them.
That's not when he got fired for saying something controversial, was it?
No,
that was NWA.
It was around the same time because he was doing it for both of them, I think.
what he said wasn't even that controversial, but moving on.
Talking of NWA, what happened this week in NWA?
I don't know. I didn't watch it. I wanted to do.
Neither did anyone else. So let's move on. Impact. So, huge Impact fan. Alex Shelley and Nick Aldis for the world title was happening at Slammiversary.
Alex Shelley. Now, Alex Shelley's been going in Impact since the good old days.
Yeah, he is the current world heavyweight champion.
Really?
About time. Yeah, he beat Steve Macklin for it, which no one
Motor
expected.
City Machine Guns, yeah?
Yeah, Chris Sabin's the current X Division champion, so the Motor City Machine Guns are holding the gold.
Sabian had the world championship at one point as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he beat Bully Ray. Deonna Purrazzo, who's probably my favourite female wrestler currently. She's amazing in the ring. She's going to be taking on Trinity, who, Jimmy Uso's wife, I think. Formerly Naomi. Just overall, it's a fun show. 90 minutes, and it goes by so quick. We had Frankie Kazarian and... Oh, what's his name? Eddie Edwards of the Wolves. They took on Bully Ray and Steve Macklin in a tag team match, and it's so good. It's just a hard hit.
It's amazing. It's amazing, if I can interrupt you, how many of these names have been involved in Impact or TNA since mid to early 2000s.
Yep. And a lot
they've kept their core. They've kept their core load of wrestlers. They've either kept them or they've come back.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with Scott D'Amore taking over, because Frankie Kazarian left AEW for Impact, things like that. And I can't imagine he's getting paid AEW money in Impact.
Scott D'Amore, though, is very, very good at what he does.
Yeah. He's been wrestling, promoting, managing since the early 90s. So overall Impact, easy 90 minutes of watching. I would recommend anyone goes and checks out because it's so good. So good.
Yes, and there's no Dixie Carter involved, we promise.
No Dixie, she's got a punctured lung still. Right, Impact. This was a big Impact week. Obviously we had Dynamite and we had Collision, but the big event was Forbidden Door. What did we think of Forbidden Door?
We thought it was crap.
Really now?
I'm only joking. I loved Forbidden Door. I think it's one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen.
I was about to say.
Just honestly, compared to last year's Forbidden Door, it was amazing. And AEW, there's something going on with AEW. Sometimes the show is horrendous. It's like watching Raw in 2016. And sometimes it's absolutely fantastic, top-notch quality wrestling. And Forbidden Door was amazing because I think AEW works really well with New Japan. And I think it also is brilliant for New Japan to open up the American audience because they've been desperate for years to get into America.
No, I agree.
Also, it helps that a lot of these guys have worked in Japan.
Yeah.
You also, it's like Will Ospreay, probably the greatest wrestler that nobody's heard of because he never went to WWE.
I think Will Ospreay is great.
British wrestler for our English fans.
Yep. Will Ospreay is amazing. Should we just work our way down the card? Because there's so many good matches here. MJF and Hiroshi Tanahashi open the show.
I love it. I love why MJF opened the show. He can't do anything wrong at the moment, MJF, in my opinion. And they took their time making him champion as well, which I loved.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell in the ring that Tanahashi isn't the spring chicken he once was.
No.
But that match went 15 minutes and 30 seconds. And I don't think it felt 15 minutes long at all.
No. And that's the thing. With MJF, you can put someone like that in the ring with him and he can make them look good.
Yeah.
Interesting fact to tell you, for our listeners, up until last year, MJF was on 60 grand a year.
Was he really?
60 grand. Yep. When he was doing his things with Chris Jericho, when they were doing their singing and everything, and he was getting huge, he was on 60 grand, base salary.
Crazy.
They had to renegotiate his contract, and he's on over $1 million now.
And so, no wonder he wanted a pay increase. And Tanahashi is an idol of Japanese wrestling, and you could tell he went in there and he worked his ass off. It was a solid opening match.
I think it was a good opening match, and I would give it 4 stars.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Now, match number 2 was probably one of my favourite matches of the night. Not because of the wrestling, but because of how the match was. And it's CM Punk beat Satoshi Kojima. Now,
CM Punk.
CM Punk, all in all, should have been the good guy in the match. But we're in Canada, Kenny Omega homeland, getting booed out of the building, and he played up to that. Like, he was an utter shithead in this match.
I just think we don't have time today for me to go on about CM Punk. What is going on with CM Punk is fantastic. He has totally turned everything around onto the Buckaroo's head, and he's made them look like the bullies. It's fantastic. And the thing about CM Punk is you can't buy heat like that.
No.
You can't.
No, he was getting booed out the building.
Hate him. Half of the fan base love him. You know, and say what you want about CM Punk, yeah? He's the biggest name they've got.
Yep.
Period. It doesn't matter how many titles Twinkle Toes won in Japan. It doesn't matter how big Buckaroos think they are. He is the biggest name they've got, and they need him.
See, I love Kenny Omega and I love the Young Bucks. But I agree, CM Punk is by far the biggest name on here. And you cannot...
The Young Bucks couldn't handle the fact that they got their asses handed to them in a backstage fight by him and Ace Steel and a dog. So basically, they pulled a fast one and they tried to turn the entire audience against him. Why hasn't Tony Khan punished the Young Bucks? Why hasn't he? Basically, they've cost him millions in merchandise sales. They've cost him millions in legal fees, you know?
The thing is, Tony Khan should... The first thing he should have done is not let the presser go ahead. He should have stopped Punk from shooting to start with.
The thing is, you could tell he bloody agreed with him.
It's just such a sticky situation. But the one thing you can't say about Punk is whether he's on the good side or the bad side, he always gets a reaction. Every single match or appearance, the fans react for him one way or the other. And you can't really say that about everyone else on the card.
He's a perfect tweener.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, again, I will reiterate, AEW needs CM Punk more than CM Punk needs AEW.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree.
Because cut all the stuff that's happened in the back out of history. If he really wanted to have gone back to WWE, really wanted to, it probably would have happened.
Yeah, I reckon he'd get back in, no matter how much they hate him behind the scenes. They wouldn't throw away that much money on the table, I don't think. Alright, next matchup we had Orange Cassidy defeated Zack Sabre Jr., Katsuya Shibata, and Daniel Garcia. What did you think?
You know what? I've grown to like old Orange Cassidy. You know, I think he started to defend his title all the time in ridiculous matches where he should be losing. So, I mean, he seems to be old McPockets, as Jim Cornette calls him, seems to actually be turning into a decent wrestler.
Yeah, you know what? I actually really like him. I thought at the beginning he was a little bit too cheesy, sort of in that like Santina Marella category. He's just putting on banger after banger after banger at the moment. What is this weird little fucking shuffle thing Daniel Garcia does? I don't get it.
Get Daniel Garcia in general.
Like, he's this weird dancing that's just suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Because, like, wasn't his thing, like, just a couple of months ago, he was this legit badass wrestler. And now he's just fucking dancing.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't, I can't get over the fact of Orange Cassidy when they had the Orange Cassidy, Chris Jericho, and the Eric Bischoff thing, where they were asking questions. And he was asking Chris Jericho basic questions, and then he was asking Orange Cassidy stupid questions, and then finally Orange Cassidy was able to explain the terminology of geography or something. It was really funny.
The Mimosa match.
Oh, freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy.
The match they had where he knocked Jericho into the big old swimming pool of Mimosa.
Yeah. Good old AEW with its
Peak
gimmick.
AEW, that is. I mean, there's not much to say about this. Like, it was a really good match. Lots of hard-hitting strikes. I love Shibata. Legit, probably one of the toughest men ever. Dude gave himself a hematoma from headbutting someone too hard. So, you know,
Zack
he,
Sabre Jr. is also is a name that I hear coming up more and more often.
Zack Sabre Jr. is amazing. I used to hear a lot more about him before he only became NJPW. He's so good. He's a proper technical wrestler. He's just fucking amazing.
Oh, he was voted the best technical wrestler for 7 years in a row, wasn't he? And
Something like that.
Technical wrestler of the decade. I mean, I believe he's the inaugural TV champion in Japan.
Yes, I believe he is the first and so far only New Japan Pro Wrestling TV champion.
I mean, he's been around. He's been in British wrestling. He's been in Japan. He's been in the UK. Not UK, the US. So I presume he is British. Actually,
Yeah,
thinking
he's
about it, I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking at his stats now, and of course he's British. He actually was at one point signed to the same organisation that Sierra comes from.
who's Sierra?
Sarah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he was a Rev Pro heavyweight champion. He's been over in Rev Pro a few times with New Japan. He was in a stable Suzuki Gun along with Lance Archer and that sort of stuff. Like, he's outside of like the North American bubble. He's one of the top like foreign imports per se.
It's interesting.
Like,
Looking at his stats, so I did not know it was called the Brian Danielson Technical Wrestler of the Year Award. They named it after Brian Danielson.
yeah, because he won it so many times in a row or something that they just renamed the entire award off.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row. Then Zack Sabre Jr. won it 7 times in a row, and now Brian Danielson's won it for the last 2 years running again.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know the wrestler that last won it before Daniel Bryan and Zack Sabre Jr.?
Technical wrestler. Is it he who shall not be named?
It is he who shall not be named.
How do I know?
Who himself won it 4 times. Some good names on there. You got Kurt Angle won it. Kajutsu
Kurt Angle's only
Kimura.
on there once seems like a fucking robbery.
Yeah, Dynamite Kid. God, that goes back. So yeah, I mean, it's a good match. I don't think it's match of the night. I think I like the fact that Orange Cassidy seems to be, as you said, putting out banger after banger, and he seems to be defending the title. It's their version of the Intercontinental, isn't it? The International Championship. So
Yeah, basically.
it's the Workman's title, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's certainly been a workman.
Yeah. So next we've got Sandana with the UK defeating Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Captain Hook, with his claw.
Now, do you remember who Sonada is?
Do I remember who Sonada is? I do, because I can just press this, and Sonara is... Oh, yeah! Jesus Christ, yeah. TNA, isn't it?
He was in TNA the same time as a card, and if you remember, they put a card in the Green Hornet outfit.
Yeah.
And they made Sonada the Great Sonada.
A great Sonara. Back when TNA tried to do a thing with Japan, and it didn't really work.
It didn't really work because they fucking murdered all their imports. And New Japan were pissed, rightfully so. But Sonada, he's gone from being the Great Sonada
to Sonada
to being the top of New Japan.
Yeah. IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Now, which version of the title is this? Because they've had like 4 different versions of this. Date established.
This is the newer one that got combined. I believe it was originally the IWGP World Heavyweight title, and then there was another one. It was Kota Ibushi, I believe, who united them.
Yes, and then Will Ospreay's won this. So has Jay White as well.
Yep.
Reasonable match. Again, I think in terms of technical wrestling, the Japanese so far are doing better than the Americans on this show.
So I'm a big Sonada fan. I think he's awesome. I loved his stuff with Naito in Japan. I don't really get Jack Perry.
No, neither do I. I think he's been pushed up there by other people that he's worked with.
Yeah.
Like, the Jurassic Express was a bit of a joke, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's a good wrestler, but
I think
Every
Christian
match
Cage
seems
has
to be
done a
like,
lot.
damn.
Christian Cage has done a lot to make him look good.
Yeah, and I mean, look where Luchasaurus now is. And I understand that this is part of the storyline of Jack Perry can't win a title. And, you know, the heel turn that happens after this with him attacking Hook. I get it, but a marquee event like this, I feel like you could have inserted a bigger name into a match with, you know, New Japan's top champion. This just feels like a bit of a waste.
It does, and probably slightly insulting to Sonada, really, in terms of the competition that AEW could have given him.
Did you see Sonada's interview before the event where he's like, I have no idea who Jack Perry is?
Yeah, they probably legitimately didn't. It wasn't a joke.
Yeah,
He didn't.
buried him.
Yeah.
Absolutely buried him. And the heel turn, we all expected it. Like, do we think Jungle Boy Jack Perry's going to be a better heel than he was a face?
I think he's not going to be around in the main event scene for very long.
No, me neither. We'll get onto this because I want to talk about his promo on Dynamite. So, can we agree? It was a match. It was on the card.
Just a match, mate.
Cool. Right, next up on the big matches of the event, and I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. It was the Elite. Adam Hangman Page, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Eddie Kingston, and one of my personal favourites, Tomohiro Ishii, against the Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, Konosuke Takahashi, I don't know how to say it, and Shuta Umino. What did we think of the match?
Well, I like one wrestler in there.
Okay, I'm going to take a guess. It's Kingston.
No, it's Claudio.
Oh, okay.
I think Eddie Kingston's crap and overrated. I think Hangnail Adam Page has caused a lot of trouble. I think the Elite should sparkle off somewhere else and start a new company that no one's going to give a damn about because nobody watches AEW for the Elite and they can't handle it. I think Jon Moxley needs to have his head stapled together permanently. I don't really know much about some of the Japanese, but I don't think Wheeler Yuta should be matched with Jon Moxley, in my opinion. The Blackpool Combat Club have not been the same since.
Yeah, Regal leaving. I don't understand why they're still called the Blackpool Combat Club. Now he's gone.
Something happened there behind the scenes because he was only there for a couple of months. It's almost like he was waiting for Papa H to give him a phone call and say you can come back.
Yeah, basically. We're shooting from the hip today. Now, I have a different opinion. Like, I don't mind the Elite.
Beat your meat. Beat your meat.
I wonder if we can put a soundbite of that in.
You can.
But
Adam Page is Adam Page. I mean, don't get me started about it. Adam Page is the whole reason why AEW is split down the middle right now. You don't go for CM Punk off script and expect it not to cause problems.
Yeah, especially with a volatile person like Punk.
And he bloody punched Punk in the face in one of the matches. If you see, he cracked his tooth. Proper punched him.
Yeah, chop. Yep, I know what you're on about. I mean, I like Eddie Kingston's promos. The matches, give or take, they're a little bit gimmicky after a while.
These people are from the very much, I would say, the originals. What TNA used to call the originals. They are the AEW originals that can't handle the fact that other people have come in that are actually better wrestling than them.
Well, this was going to be my next point because we've got Moxley and Claudio. Now, I love Claudio. I think he is amazing.
Very badly underutilized by WWE. Very badly.
Yeah. Moxley, I think, is really boring. I'm not a big fan of his matches. I'm a fan of having blood in matches. But
hey, he bleeds on every flipping Dynamite he's busted open.
Yeah.
I mean, he's blading himself more than Ric Flair.
Wheeler Yuta, he's the odd man out in the Blackpool Combat Club, and he sticks out like a sore thumb. Takeshika, I can't even say his name. I'm not going to attempt to. Really good, really, really good. I'm interested to see where this partnership with Don Callis goes.
Callis is always an enigma to me.
Like, I feel like he could become a huge star with Callis doing the talking, but time will tell. Shuta Umino. Him and Moxley stuff in Japan is amazing. And I think he's going to be like the next big Japanese superstar. I think he'll be the next Okada.
Okay.
But I don't think matches like this really benefit him.
Well,
Because
I mean, I watched the
he's
match.
kind of, out of everyone on there, to an American audience, he is the odd one out. People know who Moxley, Yuta, Castagnoli, and Takashi are from watching the show every week, and then there's Shooter. And I just don't think he got the position he should have gotten, to be honest. I think he would have been much better off in a one-on-one match with, I don't know, put him against Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Let him lose a title match. Give him that platform.
My problem with this match was it's such a clash of styles between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. It's like the Elite are let's bounce around the ring and make everything sparkle and have high match spots. And the Blackpool Combat Club, the initial idea was that they were going to be brawlers, punching everyone up, beating everybody up. It just didn't work, in my opinion.
I thought this match was better than the previous one, the arena match. I can't remember what it was called now.
Oh, I mean, anything's better than the arena match. To be honest with you, listeners, and Mr. Rhys, you are never going to get me to admit that the Elite are anything but a pile of donkey crap.
Oh, our comment section is going to go ravenous. I can't wait for this.
I'm quite clearly Camp Jim Cornette on this.
I mean, to be honest, I feel the same way about Moxley. I don't think I've ever enjoyed a John Moxley match. They're not bad. It's just they're like Orton matches for me. They're not bad. They're just bland.
Interesting. I'm looking up the Elite here. At one point, Adam Cole was in the Elite. Dustin Rhodes was in the Elite. Matt Hardy was in the Elite. Don Callis is in the Elite now. The Elite is currently Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, and Hangnail Adam Page.
Yep. Everyone's been in the Elite at some point. It's a bit like the Bullet Club. Everyone's been in the Bullet Club at some point.
I'll watch a Bullet Club match.
I don't know, with the new Bullet Club. Right, well, I think our thoughts on this match are pretty clear. Next up, we have Toni Storm with Ruby Soho and Saraya defeated Willow Nightingale.
It's like a dream for me, this is.
Fucking hell. I don't remember this match, to be honest.
All I can remember about it is, I would say Sarah is getting better. She's getting better in the ring. Ruby Soho was... She was never that big in WWE, and then when they brought her over, they made her out to be this massive thing, and then she just gone nowhere.
Yeah.
Toni Storm,
she's so good, has so much potential, and I think her AEW stuff is just boring.
I can remember when she was in the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah, this feels like a match that was put together because they didn't have anyone else. Because Willow Nightingale won the vacant women's New Japan belt from Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks, because she broke her ankle mid-match.
Yes, poor Sasha.
And this feels like a match that wasn't planned. Because I know you're not a big Joshi wrestling person, are you? Female Japanese wrestling.
No.
There's a lady called Julia, I think that's how you say it. And she's like the biggest Japanese female wrestling star to not wrestle outside of Japan. And they've just announced she's going to be fighting in New Japan for the women's belt. This kind of feels like what that match should have been. It should have been Toni Storm versus like a Julia or someone like that. Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale, it just feels out of place.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's a match that was probably cobbled together very quickly. There wasn't much thought into it.
Yeah, and Toni Storm won. That's all there really is to say about it. I don't think there's
I'd probably say the most talented wrestler there won. I mean, Sarah hasn't really been great since Mercedes broke her neck, basically.
That horrible kick.
All I can say about the artist formerly known as Paige is I know her almost as well as the New Day.
It's a new day. Yes, it is. Right, next up, my match of the night. Will Ospreay defeated Kenny Omega for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. What did we think?
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm not really a Kenny Olivier simp, but It was a really good match, and Will Ospreay deserves to be far bigger than he is.
Yeah. There was a lot of...
Meltzer had an orgasm during this match.
Of course, he gave it 6 stars. That's just come out, so...
I remember back in the day when you couldn't have more than 5 stars.
Yeah, what a luxury.
Let's have a look at Will Ospreay. He's won every award possible from Meltzer.
I'm pretty sure he's tied Mizawa for 5-star matches. Pretty sure he has 26.
IGWP World Champion. Do you think he's going to stay in AEW, or do you think he's going to go back to Japan?
No, he strikes me as a New Japan lifer. He's stated many times that he likes being able to just fly to Japan for 6 weeks, wrestle, and then come home for a month to the UK and just hang out with his family and his friends and stuff. I don't see him doing the weekly grind, to be honest. I could see him staying in Japan for a long, long time.
I mean, there's currently no plans to have him at the Wembley show, but he did make it quite clear in the Tony Khan's post-match scrum, which I still think is a bad idea, that he wanted to come out at Wembley.
He has to be at Wembley, surely. I know he's not a AEW contracted person, but you have to have him at Wembley, surely.
Oh yeah, I mean, they've got a working relationship with New Japan, haven't they? So,
get him on the show. He has to, surely. He's the only non-AEW British wrestler I would say needs to be on the show. I don't want All Out to become a... Well, let's just get every British wrestler that wrestles in the UK in, I don't know, Portsmouth and Southampton. We'll put them on the show in the pre-show. It should be an AEW show in the UK. Ospreay has to be on the show, surely.
Got to remember that wrestlers love coming to the UK. American wrestlers. Yeah. I mean, Impact's highest attendances were in the UK back when they used to tour. Mm-hmm. WWE loves coming to the UK. It's been criminal that they basically didn't do it for years and years for some unknown reason. I think AEW would be better doing a more regular UK appearance. I can't see why they can't make it a regular thing for these wrestlers to come over to the UK and tour it for a month. They would make the same money, more maybe. Don't know why they don't.
Yeah, to be honest, you could hold... It's a month, so you do one show. You could do a show in England, a show in Scotland, a show in Wales, go over to Ireland. 4 shows, big ones.
Or Germany, because it's big in Germany as well. They've got a big market in Germany. But they don't. They I think, especially with WWE, they like staying in North America for some reason.
Tour in the same cities over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they go to the. I think with WWE, they've got a schedule, haven't they, where they go to the same cities every year, the same rough times.
Yeah, I think so. They all just constantly bang out. I think AEW as well. They have a habit of just going to the same arenas once every 3 months or so. Yeah, I don't know. A bit of variety would be nice.
What did you think of? What did you think of the commentators on this pay-per-view?
Individually, I like them all. I like Excalibur. I like Tony Schiavone. I like Taz. I like Kevin Kelly. But Izumi, did it feel like Kevin Kelly and Taz were not on the same page at all?
No, they're not. They're not at all. I think Kevin Kelly's probably one of the best wrestling commentators out there. I don't get...
yeah, and you could tell he knows his New Japan stuff.
I don't get Taz, and I don't understand how Taz has been a mainstream commentator since 2004.
I think Taz is a good commentator.
JBL was better.
Something about him and Kevin Kelly too. Oh, fuck JBL.
Ding 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 dun, dun, dun.
Fuck JBL. I don't know, Taz and Kevin Kelly just felt like they were bickering more than commentating all night long until Taz got taken off the show.
Why was that? I don't actually know what happened there.
I'm assuming it was to play into the fact that Hook got attacked, but...
Oh yes, it's his son, isn't it?
No, he only really got hit from behind. Yeah, he only got hit from behind. It's not like he got thrown off the stage through 45 tables. It felt a little weird.
I felt it was weird that they... Tony Schiavone, is their... Really, he's their main commentator, because God bless him, JR is not really well enough to be the main commentator anymore. I thought it was weird that he wasn't on there from the start.
It's because he's still recovering from falling down the steps or something. He had a really bad fall.
Oh, okay.
And he half his face is all black.
Oh,
and
this
swollen.
is JR. Yeah.
Yeah, he tried to do Dynamite about 2 weeks ago or something. And apparently, it was
Yeah, I
terrible.
remember. I actually watched that Dynamite. It's like 2 days after. Typical American. Go to work 2 days after a major fall. Can't afford to tomorrow.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a lot of like good highlights in this match. I thought Osprey bleeding on the stairs and then seeing his blood like drip down the stairs was awesome. That one moment I thought was better than any of Moxley's blading for the
Because
last
it feels
year.
more real. It's got to the point with Moxley where it's
Right?
every single match. There's no shock factor anymore.
Yeah.
I also thought Kenny kicking out of the one-winged angel was pretty cool as well.
Yep. There was the Tiger Driver where Kenny got dropped on his head. That
Oh,
fucking scared the shit out of me watching it.
yeah, I mean, quite clearly he could have been
That
paralysed.
was so nasty. Yeah, that was a nasty drop. Just looked fucking horrible. So I'm glad everything was alright there. But yeah, overall, I thought this match was great. Like, I think this, if you're gonna watch one match from the last week of wrestling, I think this has to be the one you check out.
I would agree, yes.
Like, you won't see a better match. Okay, after that, to cool the crowd down a little bit,
And Sting.
we have Darby Allin and it's Sting. Darby Allin, Tatsuya Naito against Suzuki Gods.
Love it.
So Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki.
I have to be honest, yeah, I just love the Jericho Appreciation Society because it doesn't take itself too seriously. And say what you want about Jericho, he doesn't take himself seriously. He's even coming out with a Ralphus style person again sometimes.
Yeah, I think Jericho is a little past his prime, which I'm sure is going to get some people riled up. But
God, man, the guy
what was the last good Jericho?
is 52. I will always love Chris Jericho. I will never hear a bad word about him. Some of his stuff in WCW was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, like early 2000s Jericho as well was great.
Interesting fact about Jericho. Have you heard of Jay and Silent Bob?
Yes.
In the reboot film from 2019, he plays the Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard.
Does he
He
really?
does.
Fucking hell.
Let's have a look. Jericho has been in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm not even going to count. Jericho's been in about 42 video games. Everything from WCW Nitro 98 all the way up into AEW Fight Forever 2023. Is Chris Jericho the longest running active wrestler on a main roster in North America? Apart from Sting.
He must be. Yeah, apart from Sting. He must.
Sting's just a freak though, isn't he? I mean,
dude, I wish
Sting
I had
is 64
Sting's
years
genetics
old.
at this age.
Sting is 64 years old, jumping ladders.
Right?
I can't
Dude's
get up off the
fucking
sofa without going, ow.
Right? And there's him throwing himself fucking meters upon meters onto people.
God. You know what? This match
match
was fun. This match was exactly what I thought it would be. A bit silly.
A bit silly, a nice little breather before the main event.
Good booking from Tony Khan, and that's not something a lot of people always say.
Yeah, no, I thought this was booked perfectly.
So, I mean...
You could tell Sting was a little bit hurt after the Guevara move from the top rope.
What do you think of Darby Allin?
You know what? My interest with Darby Allin ends at Sting, because I'm a big Sting fan. Darby just doesn't really do anything for me. He's sort of like a walking stunt show.
This will tell you how long Sting's been wrestling. I had, as a child, the WCW trading cards. Sting with his old face paint on, 1993.
Nice.
Sting has been an active wrestler longer than I've been drawing breath.
Yeah, he started in like with Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh yes.
Known as the Blade Warriors.
So
yeah, this match was what it needed to be. It was just a quick little get in there, do some moves, have a bit of fun, let the crowd catch their breath before what we hoped would be.
Unpopular opinion. I think Sting's best stuff was in TNA. I loved Joker Sting. I loved it.
No. Joker Sting was amazing. I would say Joker Sting and sort of first title reign in WCW Sting, where he's against like Vader and Rude and Cactus Jack. I think those two are probably
in
his
his
best
early
stuff, but for very
40s,
different
probably in
reasons.
his prime then in wrestling. WWE really dropped the ball with Sting. They did offer him, but I mean, why would you want to go work for WWE for 1/4 of the money that he was already getting on his downside from his AOL contract? Why would you want to? I mean, I
Right?
can tell you the figures now. He was being paid £5 million a year in total by AOL for over 2.5 years after they shut down.
And there's no way Sting was going to go anywhere at that time. Like, when you've got DDP stalking the Undertaker's wife and getting the shit kicked out of him, what is Sting going to do? Job to Triple H for
Oh, that was the point. Do
ages?
you know that he was actually thinking of going to WWE? He was in discussions, but they saw how they were they saw how Booker T was treated, and he wouldn't go.
Like,
The whole Booker T. This has come from Sting himself. The whole Booker T Triple H WrestleMania thing put him off going to WWE for over 20 years. Not 20 years, 15 years.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not
I mean,
surprised. They did Booker T so dirty that
what
night.
was it? One pedigree, and he had to lay there for 30 seconds while Triple H caught his breath.
And especially after the "People like you don't win the big one like this" promo.
It's funny how that's never brought up.
Imagine that.
WWE back then was going through a very weird time. They offered, I believe, I got this from Bam Bam Bigelow. No, who was the one that used to wear that? He used to come down with a big hat on. He went to WWE for like 2 weeks and then got thrown out of the arena and sacked because his mum called him in sick or something.
Buff Bagwell.
Off the stuff, Bagwell. Right, yeah, I know we're digressing a little bit, but Buff Bagwell was on $1 million a week when he was at WCW. He agreed to go down to $100,000 a year to sign for WWE, and they sacked him a month later. He lost his AOL contract and everything.
Yep, and then he became a gigolo.
Yep. Anyway, back to the pay-per-view.
Back to the other gigolo, Chris Jericho.
Oh, do you know what? Do you think Chris Jericho's ruining his legacy at this point?
I don't think he's ruining his legacy. I think it'll take a horrible scandal for him to do that. I don't.
I get why AEW made him their inaugural champion, though. I get why.
Yeah, 100%. I don't see anything else happening from this. The only other point I have about this match is Tatsuya Naito is one of New Japan's biggest stars. As someone that doesn't watch New Japan, did you get that feeling from this match?
No.
No. That was because obviously I probably know a bit more about New Japan than you do, and I didn't think he was utilized half as much as he should have been. So I'm assuming to a casual American or British or whatever audience, he just seemed like another New Japan guy, when in reality he is a former multiple-time IWGP champion, leads one of the biggest factions in Japan. Like,
I recognise him actually. Thinking about it, I mean, I know a little bit about New Japan, but I don't know much about it. I'm just looking at him now. He's actually got 50 matches. Apologies, suffering from it. I'm cold. He's got MMA record of 50 fights, 30 wins. So he's a genuine hardcore guy.
is this Suzuki?
Yeah. Are we talking about someone
Suzuki.
else? Sorry.
No, I was just talking about Naito. But yes, Suzuki's
my
a legit
apologies. I'm
badass
talking
as well.
about Oh, I know Naito. Sorry, Naito. I'm just looking at him now. Yeah, I know who he is. God, yeah.
Yeah. Like, you wouldn't have, watching this match, I don't think you would have assumed he's one of New Japan's biggest stars.
No, not at all. Did he appear in TNA at one point?
Naito, I believe he did appear in TNA at one point. Do you know where that little he does with his eyes comes from? So Naito, his taunt is he opens up his eyes.
Okay.
Do you know where that came from?
Oh.
He went on an excursion when he was still training as a wrestler to Mexico,
Okay.
and Mexican fans would do squinty eyes.
Oh, racist squinty eyes at him.
So his taunt is he opens his eyelids with his fingers on purpose.
He was in TNA.
Which, you know what, is a great fucking way of being like, fuck you to the fans.
Yeah, no, that is pretty good actually. Yeah. So he was in TNA briefly in 2009. Something about Team 3D's Wrestling Academy.
Oh.
He was in there for 2 months. I remember TNA had a very short relationship with IWGP Wrestling, didn't they? New Japan.
Yeah, and then they upset them with all they did to their stars.
Yeah, so let's move on to my favourite match of the night. Bryan Danielson versus Okada.
Interesting you say this was your match of the night, because I didn't think this match quite lived up to the hype. With everything that's come out, I think there's a very good reason for it.
I loved the emotion in Bryan Danielson, because he's not been able to use that theme music since Ring of Honor.
The entrances were amazing.
Tony Khan actually bought the rights for that music for him.
Wasn't it for one night?
I mean, the fact that he wrestled 20 minutes or something, a fucking fractured arm, and you see it, they've released the picture of it. It's a clean fucking break.
Yeah, I don't think you can call that fractured at this point. The bone is snapped in two.
You know, did you see his promo afterwards?
Yeah, and he's just sitting there like, yes, I broke my arm. Gonna be out for a while.
You've seen his stuff? He loses it in the locker room about MJF.
No?
Yeah. The next big thing apparently is going to be him versus MJF.
Oh.
They need to give him a world title. Yeah,
100%. 100%.
I'd like to be married to Brie Bella as well.
Wouldn't we all?
Oh God, no. No, I wouldn't, because John Laryngitis is his stepfather.
Yeah, good point.
Hey, Rhys! Rhys, the dinner's getting cold! Rhys!
Good old John Laurinaitis. Yeah,
People power!
This match was good. Fuck people power.
Oh God, can you imagine if they brought John Laurinaitis to AEW? Can you imagine the whole... They'd have to bring CM Punk into it. That was brilliant.
CM Punk just walks to the ring with a fucking bin bag.
I think the fact that he managed to wrestle... So for me, I'm telling you it's my favourite match of the night because of the circumstances. I know a bit about Okada, and he's fantastic. Some of the wrestling... I've seen Okada's matches, and they're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The fact they worked around a broken arm for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was. The ending itself with the submission definitely did seem a little out of place, but after finding out he's broken his arm, it kind of makes sense. You know, he used his leg to secure the submission and gets the win. The fact that these two managed to work around that for 20 minutes, put on a good match, like some would even probably a great match, is a testament to both of these guys. This should have been the main event for sure. I know a lot of people wanted Ospreay and Omega to be the main event, but I do think this was a bigger match than that.
I truly think the Rainmaker is one of the best wrestling moves as well.
Yeah, but then sometimes simplicity is the best, because look at JBL's clothesline from hell. Yeah. Essentially, both moves are just the clothesline. But
the clothesline itself should be protected, because in real life, if you clothesline someone from hell, you're going to kill them.
Yep.
Simple clothesline. I mean, I did it when I was 8. I didn't kill anyone, by the way, listeners. I was doing wrestling on a bouncy castle with somebody when I was 8 years old, and I clotheslined him. Yeah, he couldn't breathe for 5 minutes.
There you go.
I think also, Okada's matches against Hiroshi... I can't say this properly. Hiroshi Tanahashi are some of the best matches ever. I mean, Daniel Bryan... the thing with Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, sorry, copyright. The thing with Bryan Danielson is that he's so good. He's so good. I think he has to dumb down sometimes when he's wrestling. I
like the fact that we get a bit more of an adult Bryan Danielson, because obviously Daniel Bryan was quite PG near the end because of the Yes Movement stuff. And now we've got proper ROH Bryan Danielson saying, like, I'm going to kick his fucking head in.
I don't understand why WWE won't clear him when they've cleared Edge, who was told that his neck was like a turkey bone. They've cleared... who else? I think they did clear Paige at one point to wrestle. I don't understand,
To be fair, he was wrestling, because if you remember,
2018, that was before his second injury, wasn't it?
his last match was against Roman, and he left the company like 2 weeks later.
Yes, no, of course they did clear him, didn't they, for a while? And then they wouldn't clear him a second time because he came back, he won the title and turned it into a piece of wood. I remember.
Yes, with Eric Rowan.
Vegan.
You guys are
God.
fickle.
Vegan Brian Danielson.
Chanting fickle. Fickle. Fickle.
Freaking article.
He's like Owens. He can make anything work.
Apparently, he's stating that he will retire at the end of his at the end of next year. I mean, he's 42. I think he's probably got one of the best legacies in wrestling. If you look at him.
Oh, easily. I mean, if Sting can still go, this fucker can.
The thing about Sting, I've looked at this. Sting has never had a head injury once in his entire career.
No, I think the Seth injury is the only major injury he's ever had.
But honestly, though, I'm surprised Becky Lynch hasn't been injured by Seth.
Mortal Kombat split in two.
Oh, fatality! I'd watch that.
I'm sure you would.
So, what would you rate this entire pay-per-view? Would you say it ranks up there with the greatest as Twitter exploded, or would you just call it a good solid pay-per-view?
I think this is by far the best pay-per-view I've watched in a very long time. Even
my view on it is 14 matches is quite a lot.
Yep. Yeah, including the pre-show.
Including the pre-show, I do apologise. Including the pre-show, which we did go over, but most people don't watch the pre-show.
I did watch the pre-show, and my notes on this will be the pre-show went by quick.
It did. I'm looking at the pre-show now. I mean, I watched the main pay-per-view, just not the pre-show. The pre-show itself lasted less time than
the pre-show was about an hour.
And the Will Ospreay match was a 40-minute match.
Yeah, like the matches on the pre-show went by quick. None of them felt like a chore to sit through, which I think is a testament to how good it was.
I would say for this entire pay-per-view, I like the MJF thing. I think it was pretty good. I don't think MJF can do anything wrong at the moment. I think CM Punk is defying expectations. He was gone for 9 months with a serious injury. He looks a lot better than he did when he came back after his 7-year break. Yep. Orange Cassidy, what can I say? He turned me around. I thought it was a whole pile of crap when I first got to it. Jack Perry, what less to say about that, the better. The Elite, a pile of crap. Tony Storm versus Willow, I can't remember anything about it. Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, I can't help but admit it was a good match. We had a good filler from Sting and the Jericho Gods, and then had the Bryan Danielson fighting through the pain, 20 minutes to wrestle when I'm crying over a toothache most days.
Yeah, no, this was by far my favourite pay-per-view in a very, very long time. Even the matches that weren't amazing were still good. Like, there's not one bad match. Like, I don't remember much about the AEW women's match or about the Shibata Jack Perry match. I don't remember them being bad. They were there. You know what? You can't have every show having 5-star matches because then it's just a bit tiresome.
Well, if you're Dave Meltzer and it involves the Elite, you can.
Oh yeah, of course. But no, that was Forbidden Door, which leads us into Dynamite. What did we think about Dynamite?
Do you remember what Steve Austin said about Lance Storm once?
Boring.
Yep. I am not a big fan of Dynamite at the moment. I think that Dynamite has not been the same since it stopped attacking NXT.
Yeah, the only thing that sticks out in my head about Dynamite was the first heel promo by Jack Perry. And my thoughts on this is the words he used were really good. Oh, I'm still getting paid. Oh, I'm banging the hottest chick in the company. Great. But the way he says it, he doesn't sound bad.
Oh, he doesn't have the passion.
Yeah, he just sounds like a kid that's being forced to bully other people by his friends to be cool. Like, we should dislike him because he's getting paid loads and banging a really hot blonde woman. But I don't know, he feels like he's being forced to be a bad person, and it just doesn't work for me.
He's not an actual heel. There's nothing natural about him. He's much better off being the goofy one in a stable.
Yeah, like, he can definitely go. He can have great matches, but I don't buy him being a bad dude at all. Like, And that makes the whole Christian Luchasaurus thing redundant, because now Christian and Luchasaurus are arseholes.
Brilliant. I'm sorry, but that's brilliant. I mean, who is actually the champion? This is the confusing thing, because Christian Cage is walking around the belt acting like he's the champion.
I love this, because Luchasaurus is the champion. He won it in a match, and Christian's walking around like he won the belt. It's so good. Like, I love that. That is peak. Just
Christian
shithousery from Christian.
I'm going to go out there and say I think Christian's better than Edge.
Isn't Edge your favourite wrestler?
Edge was my favourite wrestler until I grew up and realised how good Christian was.
Christian's amazing. Everyone says Christian is like one of the best wrestlers they've ever gotten into the ring with.
He's one of the safest wrestlers. A lot of wrestlers have said that.
Yeah.
Randy Orton himself said it. I know what you feel about Orton's in-ring work, but he's been around. Randy Orton said he loved working with Christian because he felt entirely safe.
Yep. And, look at Christian TNA. Amazing.
The
Christian Coalition.
Christian Coalition versus the Angle Alliance. Wow, those were the days. Did he get followed around by that guy, Tyson Tonko? He followed him from WWE to AEW to TNA back to WWE with him.
Something like that, yep.
Yeah, I mean...
And then didn't he get arrested for robbing
the
liquor store or something?
Yeah, I mean,
if
we can gloss over Dynamite and go to what really matters, which is Collision.
Let's do it.
Right, so, Collision was opened by Nigel McGuinness and Kevin Kelly, which I think is a really, really good commentators. I mean, why is Nigel McGuinness not in WWE anymore?
Yeah, Nigel McGuinness, his NXT commentary is amazing. I don't understand why he's not working in that company anymore. He is so good.
It's funny about Nigel McGuinness, it's like they replaced him with Wade Barrett, and they're just doing the token Englishman to the token Englishman. I don't mind Wade Barrett, but I don't think he's as good as Nigel McGuinness.
No, I agree. I don't really get it.
So it was opened by them, and then Tony Schiavone was in the ring to interview Sting and Darby Allin to find out who'd be the partner for the next night. Instead, Chris Jericho and Suzuki walked onto the ramp. Kevin Kelly's going on about Sammy Guevara, and guess what Jericho tells Tony Schiavone to do?
I have no idea.
He's been saying "shut up, Schiavone" in the same way since 1995.
Right, yes.
The artist formerly known as Rusev should be main eventing. He's just mid-card at best.
Yeah, he should be dominating. He should be doing a Gunther, but in AEW.
He's going on about being in exile for a year and then being summoned back. He's going on about how the crowd love him and they need him and he's Myro and everyone should fear him. MGF appears on the giant screen. MGF is going on about how he doesn't respect anyone in Japan because they're a bunch of indie jabronis and nobody in the rest of the world knows who any of them are. I mean, the guy can't do anything wrong at the moment. I'm wondering whether he's writing his own material.
He must be, surely. I can't imagine anyone's writing this stuff for him.
House of Black are up next. The funniest thing I ever heard was the Acclaimed saying why they called the House of Black when there's no one black in it.
Yeah. Oh, the Acclaimed are so good.
Interesting enough, shout out to my wife. Malachi is Dutch.
There we go.
There we go. My favourite bit of the night. Tony Schiavone was in the ring to interview Christian Cage and the new champion Luchasaurus.
Anything Christian touches is gold.
Christian goes on about how he left the show last week in a bad mood because he's back in Toronto and he's the TNT champion. He's in an even worse mood. The moment he stepped off the plane, all the thoughts and emotion come flooding back. And he states, to be brutally honest, Toronto, because he's not from here, the city breeds losers and the population are a bunch of idiots. That's classic heel. That's classic American heel.
Yep.
Oh dear. He said that a couple of things. He will not allow any more open challenges. They're done. If you want a shot at this, you've got to earn it. He's not going to sit here and pretend he didn't create the title as the vanity project. You know who that's going back to. He will take this championship to new heights and he will remain the face of TNT now and forever. The guy's not even the champion.
No, he's so good.
The funny thing is, isn't Luchasaurus like some sort of Does he got some engineering degrees? Like a genuinely intelligent guy, I've heard.
He's got like a master's degree in like deep philosophy or something like that. Like the dude's like a
Yeah,
genius.
I mean, Christian has been going now since 1998. He out for a few years as well with injury.
Yeah, he got some major concussions.
WWE would clear him, would they? And
Some
then he
absolute
went
major
to.
concussions.
Do you know what I like about Christian is that when he came back, they gave him the Impact Championship when Impact and AEW were joined. It was a good callback.
Yes.
He beat Omega. That was a really good match, I have to be honest. I was kind of bummed he didn't beat Omega for the world, the AEW champion.
Yeah. Putting one on the line but
Yeah.
not the other is a little weird.
I think, as you're right, anything he touches is gold. He's not a big guy, Christian, and that's what I like about him. I can't remember who was it who described him, that he has a chest like melted candle wax. But he's nowhere.
There's a story about Vince wanting to green
Yes.
screen, but like CGI a big blue dot on his face because he looked too much like a rat on TV or something.
You got. I mean, Christian. People forget Christian, the Brood.
Mm-hmm. Back when he was Edge's brother.
And do you remember the 3-second pose?
Yes, who could forget the 3-second pose?
And he had some good matches back in the day, in the Ruthless Aggression era. You know, he had a fun short promo with Cena, and you know, he's one of those wrestlers that has always been there. He always just pops up on a show, and you think, oh, that's good. He's never been the top guy. But he's always been there, and you know he always just wants that one more match.
Yeah, I don't think you can say anything bad about it at the moment. Like, the dude's killing it. He is one of the staples of AEW at the moment.
So, moving on, they have a quarter-final match between NWJP Strong Women's Champion Willow Nightmare versus Nia Rose. I mean, I'm not against female wrestling, but it's just a match. Then you got Powerhouse Hobbs versus Jeremy Prophet. Hobbs, you know, just blew over him. Bludgeoning him and Prophet just crumbles to the floor. That's about it. So
I mean, that's how squash should be.
The main event. TR and CM Punk with Ricky Starks versus not the Bullet Club, but the Bullet Club Gold and the Gun.
Because we need another
offshoot.
offshoot.
This is just amazing. This is packed with brilliant. FTR are so much better than the Elite. It's unbelievable. You've got CM Punk, and I like Ricky Starks as well. Juice Robinson.
Yep.
You know what? I am pleasantly surprised how good Juice Robinson is.
Juice Robinson just needs a platform. Like, his New Japan stuff's great. He was in a team with David Finlay. And they were
Jay
so
White.
good
Jay
together.
White's been going around. You know, people forget Jay White. He's been around for a while now, and he's really good. And
Top of Japan for a while.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and do you know who? I'm looking at a picture of Jay White now. He kind of reminds me of Edge a little bit, in certain ways. He looks.
Okay, I know what you mean, like a young Edge, yeah.
And then obviously you got the Guns.
You know what? I wasn't sold on the Guns for a very, very long time, but recently they seem to have really stepped up their game. And I don't know if it was on this episode, but their newest entrance with the water shooting and shooting like the pistols during it looks so good. Like, they've smashed their entrance. They look like a couple of badasses now.
So the match was started by Jay White and CM Punk. White flexed and Punk shoved him back. And then White basically tagged straight out to Juice Robinson. Punk's doing his usual moves. Well, I think Punk's kind of partly taking the piss out of Cena half of the time now with his shoulder blocks and shoulder barges. Juice is, you know, it just basically turned into like chops and splashes and swantoms and that sort of thing. You know, it was a all in good match. You know, Punk's chest looked like it welted up for crazy by the end of it. What do you think about Punk since he's been back? Where would you do you think he's at top form? Do you think he's ring rusted?
No, I think he's come back in here on all strides. Like, the Kojima match was good. This match was good. The Trios match 2 weeks ago was good.
Oh, you're obviously aware because you're a wrestling fan. He's very good. He's actual, genuine, real life friends with FTR. And I think the fact that he's got FTR probably helps him a little bit in the locker room.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, the locker room is starting to turn to the opinion that he's not such a bad arsehole.
No, there was loads of reports coming out about how the locker room was divided and whatnot, and a few wrestlers went on Twitter and were like, "That's not the case."
No, the only people that hate CM Punk.
Yeah, even Mira came out and was like, "I don't remember our locker room being divided last week."
Would you trying to think of an example of a wrestler like CM Punk from the 90s going like a wrestler that went between the two companies and upset people and was really big? He's not Hogan-esque in any way. I don't know. CM Punk is very one of a kind in some ways, isn't he?
Well, we were going to have a big question as part of the podcast. Which, our big question for this week, the topic was going to be the return of CM Punk. So this seemed like a good time to segue into it. Instead of just talking about CM Punk this week, but like him as general coming back to the company after Brawl Out. They do need him.
They do. It showed they do. It really showed they do. In terms of, I mean, obviously we don't have the AEW figures here, but one thing I will say is I have no idea why Jon Moxley's on a larger salary than him. It blows my mind. Reports are that Moxley's being paid $5 million a year and Punk is on a $3 million a year contract. Basic. They do need him because, love him or hate him, he's got that name recognition where it would be like, CM Punk's on this week. Oh, I fucking hate him, but I'll watch it because I know who he is.
I'll watch it because I want to see him get beat up.
Or
Punk's on. I'll watch it because I love him.
Yeah, and this is the thing: is the elite don't have that name recognition, and however much they flip around and miss their moves because they always miss it, they just can't. They can't get there. I don't know. I think like somebody. I was reading an article the other day. AEW lost 200,000 viewers on the second week of Collision. It doesn't really matter anymore. But in terms of merchandise and name recognition, they definitely do need CM Punk. It's unfortunate how he left the company with the scrum, and it's unfortunate that Ace Steel's dog got kicked. But, I think it needed to happen. I think it really needed to happen. I'm glad it did in some ways because it could have been a lot worse. Something was building behind the scenes.
Yeah, and out of the whole thing, like the fighting aside, no matter if you're on the elite side, if you're on Punk side, if you're just in the middle, don't really care. The fact of the matter is we now have 3 different AEW shows. And the 2 big ones, Collision and Dynamite, are very, very different.
Very different.
And
we're only 2 weeks into it.
There is a mixture for everyone.
I was going to say, we're only 2 weeks into it, but there is a marked difference in production value in terms of how it's set up, the wrestlers, commentators. Just like, I don't know, it's like such a difference. I would say it's almost like difference between Raw and SmackDown when Heyman was running SmackDown.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like, there's one show for a certain group of people, there's one show for another group of people, and then the people in the middle can enjoy both. They
have got the roster to do a complete split and have 2 champions.
Yeah, 100%. AEW's roster is stacked.
He just signs. Tony Khan is like, oh, you've just left WWE. I'll give you $500,000 for 5 years if you come here. Massive pop entrance, doesn't appear on TV for 2 months.
First thing, like, a lot of people give out to WWE for just signing up everyone. Like, oh, throw them in development or whatever. AEW are kind of doing the same thing, though, just people don't really talk about it. Like, they will just sign up a bunch of people. And then they'll flounder on the YouTube shows or whatever. Like, Keith Lee. Keith Lee went from being NXT champ, like the next big thing, to Bearcat Lee on Monday Night Raw, to now on the YouTube show.
Well, I am against the opinion of WWE just sign everybody that's worked for WWE. The prevailing opinion on that is a pile of donkey crap because for 25 years it was just, well, not 25 years, for 20 years it was just WWE. There's 2 big companies in America. 2 big companies in America. You're either at one or the other. It's not just a case of, they're only ever signing WWE marks. WWE, love them or hate them, are the biggest wrestling company in the world, and they have the best developmental in the world. 90% of wrestlers that wrestle in the big time in North America have come through WWE at some point.
Yeah, no, easily. And like the other half are in AEW, or been on AEW, or have gone through AEW in some capacity.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's not like it... I mean, do you remember when Impact made a big big deal about cross the line. It's not quite like that
Yeah.
at the moment, but have we had anyone that's gone WWE, AEW, WWE yet? Any big names? Well, I can think of one. Rudy.
Yeah, I mean, he went from AEW to WWE. You know what? I think if they don't pay him enough money, I think MJF would jump ship.
He said that, he said that, didn't he, at the scrum? Right to his face,
Yeah.
He went, well, if Nick Khan wants to give me a ring and offer me more money. That was brilliant.
Like, I could see Adam Cole jumping back. I think if Triple H gets full control, you could see Adam Cole jump back to WWE because he hasn't. It's only recently he's been used properly, and Triple H is a big fan of him.
I have a question for you, though. I think we should change the name of this podcast to Two Guys Who Can't Stay on the Same Subject for More Than 5 Minutes.
Yes. It's fine. It's fine. The fans will get used to it.
So I think that's all for this week. Is there anything else you can think of?
No, just if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or let us know. We can answer them next week. There is one little thing we had left on our podcast to-do sheet.
What's that?
And it was one match for the fans or the viewers to go and watch this week. Doesn't have to be from this week, just any match that they should go and check out. What is your choice?
I would say The Rock versus The Undertaker versus Kurt Angle, Undisputed Championship match, 2002 Vengeance.
Ooh. Okay. Mine also has Kurt Angle in. I'm going to go Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. That Backlash, not their main
Backlash. Good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, go and watch any match that involves Kurt Angle in WWE on his first run. That will do.
Yep.
Don't watch a match when he came back.
Yeah, he never retired in WWE. He retired in TNA. That's what you need to know.
Right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. Promise we'll get better and more on the subject as weeks go on. But this was a trial run for this week.
No,
Please be honest in the comments. I don't get upset. Rhys may have a cry, but, that's between him and me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the week, guys. See ya.
All right, see you in the next one. Bye, guys.